Thanks very much for staying with us. Time now for Eye on Africa with me, Georgia Calvin-Smith. Tonight, 3 children are amongst the 17 killed in a toxic gas leak on the outskirts of Johannesburg. Authorities suspect that equipment used by illegal gold miners may be linked to the accident. Also, although South Africa's turned a corner in its energy crisis with a rollback of rolling blackouts, a long-term revamp of its energy landscape is still a priority. I speak to an African energy strategist who's pinning her hopes on small but powerful hydrogen plants. And Nigerian salsa is heating things up. One dance fan is spreading his love of Latin moves and helping to take steps towards better mental health in a country where it can still be pretty hard to talk openly about trauma and psychological troubles. But first, at least 17 people have been killed in a fatal gas leak in South Africa. Authorities have blamed the deaths on nitrate gas from improperly stored gas cylinders being used by illegal gold miners. 3 children were amongst the victims in the Angela community in Boksburg. Caroline Lamberley tells us more.
Upon their arrival, police found lifeless bodies lying on the ground. Women and children are among the dead. In this settlement outside Johannesburg, residents and families are still in shock.
We just can't believe it. We knew the illegal miners used generators in their trade. We had no idea that they also used gas, so we never expected something like this to happen. Everyone is massively affected because innocent people lost their lives.
Authorities said late on Wednesday that the deadly leak was caused by toxic nitrate gas, often used by illegal miners to separate gold from soil. The canister was being kept in a shack in the Angelo settlement in Boksburg. Located on the eastern outskirts of Johannesburg and at the foot of an abandoned mine, the settlement struggles with rampant poverty and staggering unemployment. At a whopping 32% across South Africa, unemployment here is even worse. So many residents turn to illegal mining to make ends meet.
Now, there was an ecstatic welcome for the captain of the French national football team as he arrived in Cameroon on Thursday. Hundreds of people turned out to catch a glimpse of Kylian Mbappe as he touched down in the country for the first time. The 24-year-old Paris Saint-Germain player will be doing some charity work with young people at a school supported by his charity in Yaoundé and will be visiting his father's village, Djebali. The visit comes amidst ongoing questions about Mbappe's future at Paris Saint-Germain after he said last month that he would not be extending his contract. And business is looking up in Senegal at a huge Invest in Senegal forum that opened in the country's capital, Dakar, on Thursday. Thousands of investors, innovators and policymakers turned up to boosted hopes about the country's economic prospects in the wake of President Macky Sall's decision not to stand for a controversial third term. Sam Bradby says more.
The aim of this forum is to drum up foreign direct investment in Senegal. In fact, some 65% of attendees are foreign investors. But it comes in a very particular context. Last month saw unprecedented violence in Senegal with protests and brutal repression. But the consensus among foreign investors and analysts is that the decision from the head of state, Macky Sall, not to run for a third term in office will likely bring stability and a positive business environment.
As far as Macky Sall's decision is concerned, I can say that it shows democratic continuity in Senegal. We respect this decision. We think that this will push investors to carry on having faith in this country.
Promoting a climate that is good for investment requires, first of all, peace and stability in the country. Everyone was waiting for his speech. Now that he has made it, it will calm things down in the country, and naturally, this is a strong and encouraging signal for investors like us.
At the beginning of the year, financial institutions tipped Senegal to be the fastest growing economy in sub-Saharan Africa in 2023, with much of that growth coming from the oil and gas sector.
Now, after having experienced its worst ever energy crisis, South Africa is finally turning a corner. Crippling rolling blackouts that used to last up to 12 hours a day have been scaled back. They were initially brought in by the tattered state power company Eskom to safeguard an ailing, coal-reliant and badly looked-after grid. Now, power supplies may have improved for now, but the revamp of the country's long-term energy infrastructure is a top priority. The easing of the blackouts was also in part due to independent producers feeding solar and wind energy into the grid. The renewables market of the country is expected to more than double over the next few years. I'm joined now by Kelly Alexander, a sociologist and African renewables energy strategist based in South Africa, with a particular focus on renewable hydrogen. Kelly, thanks so much for taking the time to speak to us. So first of all, talk us through what role hydrogen plays in your vision and how you see it impacting the development of sustainable South African energy in the long term.
Certainly. Thank you for having me. So, as you see, we've struggled with this energy crisis in South Africa, and I really believe that we need to go beyond energy. If we want to find sustainable solutions to the crisis, we need to think about hydrogen. We see these big projects across the continent, Egypt, Morocco, now in Namibia, obviously in South Africa. There's a lot of work being done at a very high level that's dealing with the energy crisis. But I really believe there's a lot of space at the bottom to really come and develop solutions with communities. There are hundreds of millions of people across the continent and millions of people in South Africa who do not have enough access to stable energy. And so that's really our vision, is to sort of develop a project that it's very simple. It's solar power. It's hydrogen that's the size of a shipping container, and that gives energy to a community and enables them to thrive, essentially. So that's our goal, is to be small but on purpose.
So small but powerful. But, when you're talking about pretty small power plants, how does that match the huge scale of South Africa's energy needs?
Well, the honest answer is that we don't. So we don't try and solve it at a national level. We really see that Eskom has its role to play, but we work at the bottom of the pyramid, essentially, and we work to really scale up a very simple solution. So with so many people who require energy, we understand that if we can get it right for one community and then roll that solution out across multiple communities, that's the way that we'll ultimately gain traction. And that's the way that we'll be able to address this issue. So we really just put people at the center of our focus and work with communities to really understand what their needs are and sort of scale projects up in that way.
So we've seen more room being opened up in the South African energy market for private energy providers. So there's likely in the long term going to be more and more people coming with their ideas to see how they can find their own spot in that landscape. You yourself are a big fan of the multi-pronged approach to overhauling South Africa's energy landscape. So what kind of projects do you think are likely to find their place? And do you think that there's a particular approach or mindset that's needed to address African energy problems that would raise the likelihood that gambles will pay off?
It's a good question. It's a complicated question. And I guess the answer, I'm being a bit cheeky, but I hope that it's our solution. I hope that it's our way of viewing projects as sort of the first step. So if energy is the first step that we take, and we roll solutions out that can then address more complicated issues. So if in one of the projects we're working on, we have this hydrogen solution, and the idea is that we take hydrogen, we give people access to the internet. And then the internet is, of course, then a platform for education, for healthcare, it's market access. So this people-centric approach that we take is really what I hope will get funders and investors excited, and is the way forward in the sense of building solutions very much in partnership with communities and in partnership with the people who need electricity the most. So I think that's really the way forward, is a much more concerted efforts to interact and design solutions together.
Thank you very much. Kelly Alexander there, one of the advisors from the Invisible Gorilla Consulting. Now, one step at a time, Nigerian dancer Emeka Adinda is trying to spread his love for salsa and help others going through trauma overcome through the power of dance. He's been putting on free classes in Abuja since 2007. Let's take a look.
A step in the right direction. It's Friday night, and this couple has decided to trial a salsa class in Abuja, Nigeria. Teaching them the moves is dancer Emeka Idindu. He says salsa saved his life when he was struggling with depression. And now he's on a mission to spread the word.
Salsa was the only thing that could make me smile. All those days I was battling, fighting with my demons, with my past, with my everything. Salsa was the only thing that makes me feel like living.
The classes are free and open to anyone going through trauma or anybody wanting to let off some steam after a long work week.
It has helped me relieve stress. It has helped me build relationships between people. I've made new friends, and the dance keeps me fit.
The intention was it was like my personal social activity. And it helped me distract myself from a lot of stress and ease myself.
Dancing away the night and the blues, Idindu says his goal is to spread happiness. Talking about mental health is still largely taboo in Nigeria.
People always easily identify physical health. Okay, I have malaria, I have diabetes, hypertension. I think it's normal. But then when it comes to their brain being ill, they start trying to find another way to explain it away, instead of knowing that it is one more illness that can occur from my body malfunctioning, in this case, the brain.
It's estimated that 1 in 6 Nigerians aged between 15 and 24 are depressed, anxious, or have other mental health issues.
Well, that's it for Eye on Africa. Thanks for joining us. Do so again. Till then, take care.
A programme about women who are reshaping our world. We meet those who seek equality, be it in the boardroom or at the village well. The 51% brings you stories from across the globe about the women who are challenging the way we think.
The 51%, presented by Annette Young on France 24 and France24.com.